Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the course of Advanced Green Manufacturing Systems, and today we are going to discuss new technique or a special technique called ANOVA, analysis of variance, which is in continuation with the experimental design concepts that we are covering in this course. And I am Dr. Deepa Philip and I am from IIT Kanpur. So, if you look into today's lecture, it is titled ANOVA, or what it stands for is, it is called single factor experiment analysis of variance. Okay. And this term ANOVA comes from analysis of variance. This is how you get ANOVA, right. So, whenever somebody says I am doing ANOVA, that means what they are doing is they are analyzing the variance. And today we are talking about the single factor experiment, how we focus on one factor and how the experiment is being done. So, the first thing we need to study today is something called complex experiments, right, not the simple experiments, right. So, first thing is comparing two conditions, or settings or treatments. Comparing these is quite simple. Okay. So, if you want to compare two conditions or settings or treatments, it is quite simple and usually done through hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing of two means, or what we call as pairwise comparison. Okay. So, this is if you want to just compare two things, two settings or two conditions, is that what you want to compare? It is a reasonably a simple process, and under the hypothesis testing, most of the textbooks, statistics books gives you under the hypothesis testing of two means or the pairwise comparisons aspects will actually give you how to do this, right. Real life scenarios have more than two levels of a factor. Okay. In real life, if you take one factor, it is very rare that you will come across that there is only two levels of that factor. It is always more than two levels of a factor. Okay. And when you have more than that, then this becomes complex and you cannot really do with the simple approach. Okay. So, we call such experiments are called as single factor experiments with A levels of the factor, or what we call as treatments. Okay. So, what we are saying here is, when you have more than two levels, then we say the factor has A levels of or A treatments. Okay. So, assume that you have something called a temperature as a factor, the two level will be hot and cold. Okay. But in real life, it is not hot and cold. People will talk about temperature varying from, let us say, 15 degrees Celsius, then you have 20 degrees Celsius, 24 degrees Celsius, 30 degrees Celsius, 36 degrees Celsius, something like this. So, these ones are the A levels, okay, multiple levels. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, the value of A here is A is equal to 5 in this particular case. Okay. So, whereas this is the 2 level, which you can do with this case, okay, where you cannot do this with that. You have to for this particular case you have to use another method, right. So, such complex experiments are completely randomized to draw valid conclusions. So, what we are doing here is the randomization is complete. You randomize the entire experiment complete when you have such large number of factors. Okay. So, these complex experiments you have to do complete randomization so that you can draw valid conclusions out of it, right. So, that is the thing that we talk about the complex experiments. Now, let us start with a simple example. Let us discuss this whole thing as with an example, right. And this example will help us to work through this single factor analysis of variance with multiple levels and also figure out the mechanics behind the problem. Okay. Consider the previous case of an automated pick and place soldering machine. Okay. So, we were talking about which machine we need to buy, and what happened is the initial planning of the experiment, there was discussions with various experts. After discussing with various experts, which is part of the experiment planning. So, this is the planning phase. Okay. It was found that the conveyor speed, okay. So, we identified that the conveyor speed in centimeter per minute is very important. Okay. So, how quickly the conveyor or the machine runs in centimeters per minute, okay, is important, and it typically varies between, it is designed to vary between 10 to 40 centimeters per minute. So, it is not one value, it can vary from 10 to 40. So, if you think about it, if you want to think about it as a graph, then you can think about it as 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, and the conveyor speed can be any value between this. Okay. The suspicion is that, what you think is that, suspicion is that increased speed has some impact on the soldering errors. You think that more the speed, it has some influence on defects. Let us say you think that more the speed, it has more defects, then you obviously say then reduce the speed. Why do you need to increase the speed? But think about this, slow speed translates to low productivity. Okay. So, you want to run the machine at the maximum efficiency, what we call it as max efficiency. Okay. And this is one of the most important learnings that we do in green manufacturing is probably running at the max efficiency is not the right thing to do, because you might not require to run it at that efficiency. Instead, what we are doing is we are trying to find out what is the right set of speed where you can do is where you can minimize the errors and minimize the energy utilization and those kind of things. Okay. So, slow speed in normal scenario, normal production, you want to run the production as fast as you can, because you want to make more money by selling more parts. Okay. So, which the reason is more parts equal to more money. This is the productivity mantra, right. You produce more, you make more money, right. But what we are trying to talk about green manufacturing is not more about producing that. So, this is kind of an practice problem for you guys to get this kind of concepts into your mind. Okay. So, we suspect that there is suspicion that the increased speed somehow impacts the soldering errors, okay, or the soldering issues are somehow impacted due to the increased in speed. Okay. So, the research officer, one person who is doing the research, has decided to test 5 speeds. So, he or she picked 5 speeds, 15 centimeters per minute, 20 centimeters per minute, 25 centimeters per minute, 30 centimeters per minute, or this is not 30 com, it is 30 centimeters per minute and 35 centimeters per minute. Okay. So, you have 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Okay. So, your value of A is equal to 5 in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, you have 5 levels or 5 treatments for the one particular factor. So, the factor here is conveyor speed. okay. Levels is 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. This can also be called as treatments. The levels can also be called as treatments. Okay. Also, it was decided that for each speed there will be 5 different printed circuit boards to be tested. Okay. So, for each one of the speed we will take 5 different samples. So, this is 5 samples will be tested. Okay. This is equivalent to your replication. You will replicate it 5 times for each speed. Okay. And what is your response variable? The response variable was decided as the number of soldering errors on each printed circuit board. Okay. Once you run it, then what you are trying to find out is how many soldering errors are there on each printed circuit board. That is going to be your response variable. Okay. Fine. I hope you are clear with the experimentation part. So, the experiment setup that we have is as follows, right. So, you have the conveyor speed, as I said earlier. This is the factor to be investigated. So, you are investigating the factor called the conveyor speed, okay. And the conveyor speed has, these are the settings of the factor. It is also known as levels of the factor. Okay. It is also known as treatments. They are all one and the same, right. So, we have 5 treatments in this, 5 treatments each at the speed of 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 as the speed of that. So, these are the 5 of these values denoted by A. Okay. The variable A is used to denote this, and for each speed you have 5 PCBs. Okay. These are your samples, okay. And they ensure replication, saying that I replicated it 5 times for each experiment, right. So, now if you think about it, I can put numbers. So, there are 5 of them here and there are 5 of them here. So, I have 5 by 5 system, so which is 25 total. So, I can do one thing, I can have this. So, the thing is, number 1, the entire experiment has to be randomized. Okay. Because as I said earlier, complex experiments has to be completely randomized. Okay. We can say completely randomized. So, what do we do? We take each one of them and then we assign a number. So, let us take it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So, I have 25 printed circuit boards with me, and each one of them I will assign them a number from 1 to 5, 1 to 25, right. Okay. So, what I am saying is each of the 25 PCBs are given a number from 1 to 25 and the matrix cell is also numbered. Okay. Then what do we do is select a number from 1 to 25 randomly one at a time. So, what I am doing is first I have 25 PCBs with me, each one of the PCB I have numbered 1 to 25, okay, and each metric cell also have numbered 1 to 25 in this case, there are 25 cells here, right. So, they are also numbered. Then I select a number from 1 to 25 randomly, I randomly pick a number and one at a time, and let us say I pick the number for an example is 14, okay. So, then what happens is I find out where is 14 in the matrix, that is a 25 centimeters per minute and again is the column of PCB 4, right. So, then what we do is whichever number comes in, whichever number is obtained, process that sample. So, what do I do here is, this means if the number is 14, that means I run the speed at 25 centimeters per minute, okay, and do the soldering process, and whatever the error I get, okay, then value here. Whatever the number of errors after the soldering process, whatever the value I get, I put the value here. Then I take another example, let us say I randomly picked another number called 2. So, then 2 is right here at a speed of 15 centimeter per minute, and this is second PCB. So, I take the PCB which is labeled number 2 and then I run the machine with the conveyor speed of 15 centimeters per minute, and then I find out how many soldering defects are there and I put the value right here, okay. So, I repeat this process and then I probably would get a number of 25 or something like that, then I will go do it here, then I might get a number of 16. So, then I will come and do it here like this. So, I will not be doing them in an order, I will actually doing them in the random order, okay. So, that is why it is called as a completely randomized. So, this is called as a completely randomized experiment. All the 25 values are taken at random and then that values are, the numbers are filled in this process, okay. I hope you guys understand how this actually works, okay. So, let me give you an example, let me tell you how it actually looks like, right. So, the conveyor speed I said these are A equal to 5 and here is your replications equals 5, here is your factor, okay, here is your levels, etc. And your test sequence is this is the order in which the 25 of the test sequence right here, and this is the order in which you are going to do the test, okay, order of data collection, okay. So, the number 1 is run number 8. So, 8 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, this is my 8, okay. So, I will take this one, so run it at 20 centimeter per hour, use the PCB, this particular PCB, take the data, put value here, okay. Then the next one is 18, okay. So, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So, this is 18. So, then I have value here, okay. Then it is 10. So, it is 8, 9, 10. So, here you have your 10. So, then you have your value here, okay. So, depending then comes the value of 23. So, it is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So, you got 23 right here. So, you have your value here. Then you have is 17. So, 17 comes here. So, that you put the value here, right. So, then comes what you, so you done with your 17, then you have 5. So, here is your 5. So, then you go the value here like this. So, you keep on putting the value, okay. So, you have some numbers whatever. So, the value is the count how many soldering defects and then record the value. So, then you put the value how many soldering defects you got, you put it right there, okay. So, this one, and you know that the last 25th value is 3. So, the 3 will be right here, this will be your 25th run, okay. or in another way to think about it is, okay, this 8 will be your first run, okay, or another way to think about it is I am just going to put the numbers right here. This is the value that you are going to collect as number 1, okay, 18 is number 2, okay, then you have 10 is number 3, this is your third value that you collect, then is your fourth one is 23, so this is your 4, okay, then 5 is 17, here is your fifth value, then the sixth value is 5, okay, so here is your sixth value. So this is the order in which you can, so either way you can label them, but ensure that when you do this, okay, ensure that data is stored in the proper cell, okay. So you have to ensure that just don't write it wrongfully, just ensure that one way or other you store the value in the right place, wherever is the right location, you store the values right there, okay. So this you have to ensure that, right, okay. Once this is done, this is what we call as this entire order, this entire thing is what we call as the randomized sequence of the experimentation. All right. Now that we have seen what it is, let us move towards the experimental data collection, okay. So now we see that we done the experiment and we completed it. So if you look into this, the previous one, this was the run order in this, okay. So in this case, then we know that the first sequence was 8, okay. So 8 means we went up to 5 plus 3, this was your 8, 8 was the column right here, right. So what happens is you did the experiment at 20 centimeter per minute and then you did using this particular PCB and that value is right here, okay. So this means there are 12 defects that you counted, okay. This was your first sample, okay. Then the next one was 18, right. So that came to, if you think about it, this was the 18, right. So this is 18. So this is what you did the second one. So this particular value gain, okay, this particular test coupon running at a different speed. So there is 5 PCBs allotted for each one of them, okay. There are 5 PCB here, then there is another 5 PCB here, there is another 5 PCB here, and there is another 5 PCB here, okay. There is another 5 PCB here. So you require 25 PCBs and there you found out that in this particular speed you have 22 defects, right. And so you keep on collecting data and this is the data that you record accordingly, okay. All these data values that you put there are the values that you recorded, right. So as I said earlier, ensure that defects counted against a setting is recorded in the respective cell, okay. So as of now we are saying that, okay, whatever the data you collect, you ensure that you record it in the respective cell, and once you are done with these 25 data sets, then you get this entire. So this whole thing, okay, is what we call as the data matrix or table, data table, okay. Some people call it as table, some people call it as matrix, it does not matter. So this whole thing is the data table that we are talking about, and it is on this data collected on this, okay. This one is used for analysis, okay. And what is our analysis? ANOVA in this case, okay. So we use this data matrix to do analysis of variance or ANOVA in this regard, okay. So then we get into what we call as the first step of analysis, okay. What is the first step in this? Recommend that experimental data be examined graphically, okay, or using a graph find a way to examine the experimental data. This is my recommendation in this regard. Whichever data you collect, make sure that you use graphical methods to examine. Two important methods. I would suggest two important methods in this regard. Number one, box and whisker plots. I have already covered this in another lectures in other courses, but I would recommend, so I will suggest you to do self study in this regard or look into the lectures that I have already made on box and whisker plots. Then the other one is scatter diagram. Okay. Everybody has learned, but we will discuss now. Everybody has learned what is a scatter diagram, and it is usually between one x and a y. Okay. So, we all seen that this is x, this is y, and we have some points like this, and we said this is a scatter. Okay. In our case, we are actually going to do in a little bit of a different fashion. So, I am going to explain to you what is one example of this. So, this one what typically in ANOVA, the way we do this is something like this. Okay. Here is your x, is your y, and x is your, what were we counting? We were counting the number of defects, right. So, we had said the number of soldering errors, okay, is what we are considering. So, we will say number of soldering errors, okay, that is on your y axis, and here is the conveyor speed in centimeters per minute. Okay. So, you had what? You had the conveyor speed of, what were the conveyor speeds we are looking at? 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So, we have something like 15, we have 20, 25, 30, 35. So, these are the 4 conveyor speeds that we have, and we are going to take the value 0, and then we are going to take the values from this slightly different. Okay. And we draw it as 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 like this. Okay. So, then with that in mind, so for the values of 15, okay, if you think about it, the first values are, if you go back, for 15 it is 7, 7, 15, 11, 9, right. So, to draw that, what we do is we go here 5. So, let us say this is 7, okay. You have 7 and 7, okay, 7, 7. Then the other values is 15 and 11. So, the another value is 15, third value is 11, and the last value is 9, okay, somewhere here. Okay. So, this kind of a diagram that we just draw right here, okay, what we drew right here is the scatter, okay, the scatter for the particular conveyor speed of 15. Similarly, we look at the conveyor speed of, so these values were now we let us look at 20, okay. 20 was 12, 17, 12, 18, 18, right. So, 12, 17, 12, 18, 18 is what we are interested in drawing. Okay. So, then let us go back. So, this is 10, okay, maybe 12 is right here, 112, okay. Then 12, then comes you have is 17, 15, 16, 17. So, this is 17. Then you have is 12. So, come back and draw a 12 right here. Then you have is 18 and 18, right. So, this is 18 and another 18, right. So, you get a diagram like this, which is the another scatter diagram for 20. Then we go to 25. So, we look at 25, 14, 18, 18, 19, 19, right. So, 14, 18, 18, 19, 19. So, let us go back. 25, the first one is 14. So, slightly below 15. So, we draw here. So, that is 14. Then we have is 2 18s. So, we go up, right here is 18. So, 2 18s, and then you have 2 19s. So, slightly below 20. So, you do 2 19s. So, you get your 5 values therefore 20, 25. Then 30 is 19, 25, 22, 19, 23, right. So, then let us go back. For 30 we have first value was 19. So, right here 19. Okay. The next value was 25. So, we go up, here is 25. Okay. Then the third value was 22. So, between this one, so this was 22. Then there is 19. So, right here is 19. Okay. We put one more 19, and then there is 23. So, here is 23, between 22 and 23. So, this gives you the scatter for the 30, and then the last one is 35. It is 7, 10, 11, 15, 11, right. So, then we go back to this and 35, and then we start with the value. So, that is 7. Okay. So, somewhere here is 7. Okay. 7. Then you have is 10. So, you get 10 right here. Then you have is 11, slightly above that, right. Then you have is 15. So, this is 15, and then you have is 11. So, you have one more diagram like this. So, now we can see that each one of them, this is the way each one of them is spread out, right. So, this is for the speed of conveyor belt of 15, this is for 20, 25, 30, 35. So, the advantage is, the main advantage is compare the spread at each level side by side or simultaneously. So, you are basically saying that by doing this kind of a diagram, you can actually compare them. So, you can say that okay, 15 is probably the lesser number of defects, but also at a high speed at 35 also these are comparable, right. But the conveyor speed of 30 consistently shows that this is okay, more defects. Okay. And here you have lesser defects. Okay. Now, for a green manufacturing process, you can decide there is a speed of 15 and there is a speed of 35. So, here is energy requirements for 35. Here you have your energy requirements for 15. Okay. Compare these and see which one is better and those kind of things. So, this is how you actually work the problem, but you, whatever it is, you have to still compare using ANOVA to figure out whether this is better or bad or worse or whatever you want to call it, right. Okay, fine. Thank you very much for your patient hearing, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.